HAL Laboratory has reached the Disk System. Even Nintendo's formerly close partners weren't getting early development hardware for the platform. 9 months after the system's launch, and HAL's first game is just Othello, something that's used as a basic programming exercise. It's not the most thrilling of debuts, though HAL will have another game out for the Disk System in a few weeks. The publisher Kawada's only games are Othello, and that's because they're the board game company that owns Othello. Othello, also known in the public domain as Reversi, was a Japanese board game invented in the 1970s that broke through to the public by being very easy to understand. In fact, that was the advertising tagline: "A minute to learn, a lifetime to master." The game is played on an 8x8 grid, with 64 discs that have black on one side and white on the other. Each player has a color, and the game starts with the 4 center squares filled in with alternating black and white. Players take turns putting down a disc on their color's side, and then if they've surrounded any discs of the opposite color, they turn those over. This goes back and forth until the board is filled, and then whoever has the most pieces of their color on the board wins. There's plenty of strategy to Othello. The obvious one is that the corners are impregnable defensive positions, since they can never be turned. But skillful players will also be forcing moves, since you always have to place a piece so that it turns tiles over, and in general will be working to limit their opponent's options. If you ever can't play a piece because nothing will turn over, then play goes to your opponent. This version of Othello lets you pick which color you're going to play, which matters a bit since the first player is always black, and they have an advantage over the white player. There are also 4 difficulty levels, and what the difficulty levels really come down to is how much time the computer will take to think about its next move. The way that AI works in a lot of these games is that it tries out every possible move, and then tries out every possible response to that move, and so on, and rates each result differently. Then when its time limit runs out, the highest rated move is what it plays. So restricting that thinking time is how you make the game easier. There's also a game clock that you can enable, similar to a chess clock, where once you've used up all your allotted time, then you only have a few seconds every turn to make a move before you lose. Setting the game clock to a low amount of time, like 20 minutes, actually winds up restricting the higher level AI pretty badly. And that's all there is to this one. It's Othello, not much more than that. The most interesting thing about this Othello release is that this is the only time where the Famicom cartridge and the Famicom Disk System version came out even remotely close to each other. The Disk System version was first, but exactly 1 month later, the Famicom cartridge version was released. For all of the other games that had both cartridge and disc releases, the time between those was much more significant. My take on it is, well, it's Othello. It's a perfectly valid version of that board game. It's not especially exciting, since you can get versions of Othello just about anywhere, and it's also a pretty bare-bones package. There's no customizable rule sets or anything like that to put new spins on the game. This is exactly what you'd expect from an Othello game released in 1986. Nothing more, nothing less.